Hello everyone. Our team is called Four Budgeteers. We, namely Darius, Hope, Michael, and Mialona, created the budget tracker application called Budgetly. Budgetly offers a simple way to create and manage your personal budgets, which is even described in details on our login and sign up pages. The main focus is not to get the amount of free money, but to track your spends in different categories and analyze where you have gaps and which category gives you savings. Our biggest emphasis is interface. We try to make it maximum user friendly and handy and super clear. The data visualization was our goal, and I'm pretty satisfied with the result we got, which I will show you later. So now we will tell you more about our teamwork, and Mike will show you our diagrams and tell about the framework we use for our work. Then guys all together will tell you about the technologies that we used for our application, and finally I will show you how our application works and tell about its features and constraints. So let's go.
In order for our team to stay on target with finishing our application, we found that it would be beneficial if we had different roles throughout the project. Um, this way, everyone knew exactly what puzzle pieces it takes to construct a project of this nature. Like, it's a very cool application. It's very dynamic in how it displays your data. So, it was important that everyone kind of design some aspect of this rather than one person designing maybe the view page and one person only doing controllers, one person doing the DAO and service. This approach, it would have been a little chaotic as well because you may not know what the other person is calling all of those variables or methods. So, and then those three or four pieces, they all kind of go together to make one page. So each person just decided to work on a feature of the project instead of one person just doing all of one kind of coding, if that makes sense. And I will say that our team did have a bumpy start and getting started in the early stages, mostly just in the idea stage. I know for me that personally, I'm a very tangible person, and just hearing ideas and not seeing them is very hard for me. So, what I did was I decided to create a diagram like this. This is kind of what I thought the pages could look like. In retrospect, I thought maybe, I don't know why they're so small, but this was what I decided it could look like in my head. I sent it to our group. And then from this point on, we kind of modified this initial idea, came up with a final schematic, and this is how our application got to where it is today. I will say that this looks very, very close to the final product. One feature that you don't see here, that you see in the application, is the idea of this customer dashboard um, right here. But all these other pages pretty much got designed close to how they were diagrammed, so that's pretty cool.
Another diagram that we use for our application is this small UML case diagram. As we wanted to make our application very simple and handy, we implement only these several functions, such as create a new account, login, successful or non-successful, creating a new budget, view a view budgets page, add a new expense, and generate expense report. We did all of these functions, and we've used just from several like collapse and expand all budgets, and also maybe change the location of several functions, or add-ins such as update and delete expense. And also I decided to create a separate page for each budget detailed report, which is very useful for customer. So the all functionality of our application.
Other features that we used were the entity relationship diagrams. We all had a local instance of this on our machine, but only one person was in charge of deploying this to Amazon Web Service. The only thing, one person was really in charge of the whole project. In other ways that we stayed organized, we used this agile method for development, and we use Jira software. Jira is a Scrum based application. This is our last and current sprint. I tried before demonstrating everything to show previous sprints. It doesn't show that for some reason. But this is our final sprint. We had a total of 3. First sprint we did was designing the back end and database. And then the second sprint was honestly just deploying this database to web service. And then the final sprint was designing the view pages.
This is what Mike was talking about. This is our Jira with sprints, 3 sprints. So we started really early, and we have 3 weeks with different tasks. So in the first sprint, we can see that we did all entities, all DAO service classes, and all controllers. Each task was assigned to different people, so each of us was participated in different parts. And second and third weeks, we were doing our GSP files, and also each like we divided all GSP between everyone, and each person has like one or like two, three different GSP.
The technologies used to build the Budgetly Budget Tracker application consist of Java, Spring Framework, Spring Boot, MySQL, JSP, and Bootstrap. Spring Framework was used as the base infrastructure for our team's budget application, while Spring Boot was the backend framework we used to build our budget web application. We used a variety of Spring Boot dependencies in our application as well. These dependencies were Spring Web, which allowed the team to build the web application in its RESTful APIs using Spring MVC. Spring Data JPA was used to persist data in our SQL stores with the Java Persistence API using Spring Data and Hibernate. MySQL drivers was used to create the connection between our application and our MySQL database. Lastly, JSP was used to serve the front end of our application, with Bootstrap being used to add additional styling.
So the technologies that are used to make this application work. So this is again Spring Boot web application. It also is utilizing the Spring Security Framework and the bcrypt password encoder to hash your password, so that if this were a real product and were to be on the market, whoever's looking at this cannot see your real password and figure it out. It's all hashed in the database here like that. It's also utilizing Bootstrap CSS. So Bootstrap CSS has lots of built-in classes and all of that, and HTML responsiveness to make web pages dynamic. So that's, for example, how you see these little containers have rounded corners. They are utilizing the Bootstrap card, and it gives them nice little rounded corners. These little up here are little carousels. That's how they're sliding back and forth. And there's very faint arrows here, but this one has only 1 and 1, so they're not going to slide. But if there's more than 1, they will slide for you. And I also am saying that we have a mobile application because utilizing Spring Boot, it has a lot of responsiveness for different web browsers. So if I resize my window and pretending I'm on my phone, it's still usable. And if I go to look at my budgets, it's still usable. So it's very friendly on different web browsers, and Bootstrap made that possible for us not have to code. These pie charts are a result of JavaScript. Again, probably the hardest part of the whole project was getting these pie charts to look nice like this. Another feature that we learned about in class that maybe a lot of people don't really get the benefit of is I utilized unit testing. In the early days of our project, we did not have any user interface set up yet, and it was important for us to know whether or not we could actually store customers and hash passwords. That way we would know if our login page would need other, dependencies or something to be able to securely store a customer's information, most of it being the password, because you don't want to be able to see the word password, you want to see a bunch of characters. So that's what all of this is set up for. So I auto wiring in a customer service and password encoder, and I have different tests here. So customer 1 is going to get created, the password is hashed and then compared to the current password to make sure that it's not already their password. So it falsely asserts that the password does not match the previous password, so this passes as there's no password. This customer gets saved with the hash password to the database. Then I'm creating a new variable. I'm going to retrieve this customer using the customer service get customer 1 by the ID. And then I'm going to assert that the raw password matches what got stored in the database, or in this case however it's being stored in JUnits. That's what these tests were for, and you can see that when you run them, and there's the green bar. So that was useful. If someone did not find that useful in class, I did find it useful for this purpose. And then we also are storing our database on Amazon Web Service. So that's what this is here, this link. And then all of these dependencies are needed to make this project work. And then little overview for like the dashboard page. So all of these classes come provided by Bootstrap. You just have to look at their documentation and then see how that's used. So it also makes it easy to lay out your page in different columns. The Bootstrap is set up into columns of 12. So as long as these numbers do not go over 12, it will display on one row. And then the carousels and the cards. So this is how you make a card. This card body is provided by Bootstrap. And then we have the carousels here. So that's how everything is set up to make this look so pretty like it does here.
Hello everyone, my name is Hope Heck. I was mostly in charge of the database structure and setup for our team project. I'm rather proud of how our whole system turned out, but I'm going to go over what was mostly my responsibility. You can see here that we have 3 entities: customer, that is mapped to the table customers, budget mapped to budgets, and expense mapped to expenses. We used MySQL Workbench for the most part. Here you can see all our entries for customers, budgets, and expenses. And if you come over here, you can see that we have the customer's budget, or the customer's table, that is mapped to budgets by use of a foreign key, and budgets is mapped to expenses by use of a foreign key. Everything came together rather nicely for that. We only had to make a few small tweaks as we got closer to the end of our project. But what I'm most proud of is that we were actually able to use Amazon Web Services to host our information. That was no small feat. Coming over here, this is our database. The instance we used was a simple single instance that everyone worked off of. It did end up working out quite well for us because then everyone was working off the same information and no one was getting different errors because of incorrect naming or not having quite the same variables. It came through quite cleanly for us. We did attempt to use IAM Identity Center, but we just didn't quite have time to make everything work that we wanted it to. Nonetheless, our application does work perfectly with the single instance and the use of MySQL Workbench.
Now the most interesting part of our presentation is to show how our application works. So I will show you how it works for the existing client and then how it works for the new client. So here we have login page and sign up page. In login page we use cookies to store our login and password. So I just click to my password on my computer and I'm logged in. So the first page is very user friendly, very handy. It's your dashboard, so where you can see this month's budgets and this month's expenses, this week's budget, the same expenses, and budgets our amount. So you can see that overspend is shown in red color, remaining sum is shown in green color. The whole things on this page is clickable, so you can just click on this chart and it brings you to the detailed report about this budget. The same is about the most recent expenses. So this part shows the 15 the most recent expenses, and usually it fits on one screen, but I have small 13 inches screen, so it's like cut it at the bottom. So each expenses you can click on it, and it also brings you to the detailed report where these expenses is located. So that's about our dashboard, and you can see we used this carousel, like this feature, just to show you these charts. You can click on the arrows and it will show you all your budgets here, all your charts, or just wait and it will show by itself. So the next we have this small navigation, and it's very handy, very comfortable for users. So you can click on each section and it will brings you to the exactly feature you want. So for example, view budgets, you will view all your budgets. Also you will know about total amount spent, total amount remaining, and also each budget is also clickable. You can just click and see the detailed report. And back the create budget path also brings you to creating budget pages, and expenses report has all your budgets with all your expenses. And I added this button add expense just in case if for example customer scrolling his expenses and realize that he forgets to add some expenses to some budgets. So also you can just get your mouse over this chart and see what expenses is like what expense what part of all budgets has, and also this small summary. So more detailed about budgets, you could notice that we have these buttons on top right corner, so it's like the most important buttons, the same like the navigation path is. So for example, you can create budget from here, or you can create budget from here, which is logically these pages with budget included. So the same situation is with expenses. For example, you could add expense from this place, so right from this budget. Also it like bring you back to the detailed report and you can go to back to budget list. So Also, you can add expense from these detailed reports, so you can observe what expenses you have and what you want to add. Also, like cancel, or you can add expense from this button. We duplicated some buttons just in case to make sure that our clients is not lost in our application, because maybe for some reason you don't notice that the button add expense is here, so you just see it here. The same is in expenses report, as I mentioned. Also about functions, additional functions, you can search on this page. You can search budget you want, for example pet, and it will search it, or just one letter, it will shows you. You can also sort it by name, or if this enter your keyword field is empty and you click sort by name, it will sort by name all your budgets, or sort by dates or your budgets. For me, the most advantages of our budget application is that you can create budgets for different period of time, not such like for months or for 2 weeks, but you can create for any dates you want, just to track your spends. If you want to track your, for example, travel spends, you can create the travel budget for maybe 1 week, I don't know, just to see what spends you like, to plan the spends for this travel, and then after to see if you are in your budget or not. Do you have overspends, or you have remaining spends, so you can analyze it and plan your travel spends for future like better. Also, we can update our budget, for example, increase the amount. This one, increase the amount if you want. So for now it's 250, or just delete, like we can just delete it and it disappears. The same is with the expenses. You can for example, you want to change the sum of your expense, so you can just change it and the date, and it's changed. So I think that's pretty all our function. And after all, you can just log out and it will bring you back. So for the new client, for example, if you try to log in but you're not our clients, it will tell you invalid email or password, so you should sign up. So for example, I will create the new customer, and save password. So that's what we see on the first page. It says you that you don't have any budgets, and also you don't have any budgets here also, and the same here. So you can add new budget from this place, you can add new budget from this place, or from your budget just here, or also here. So you have a different places to add. We will create some budget, for example, um, our classes, and the budget is this one, and for example for the end of this week. So we have these budgets and we want to add some expense, for example lunch, and that will be today. So how it looks like. So we have this part of lunch, this remaining sum. We can back to our budgets, we can update it, we can delete it, or do what you want. So that's how our application works, and I'm pretty satisfied with it, because we did all functionality that we wanted, we planned. So yeah, that's it. And now Hope will have the last word of our presentation.
Hello again, Hope Heck here to do our team wrap up. I was asked to go over some of the team dynamics, how our team worked together, and it is my pleasure to do so. First of all, I would just like to say every member of this group has just been so immensely passionate and has brought their own strengths to the table, and I could not be more honored to work among all three of them. As far as team dynamics go, it was a very open sort of discussion back and forth. We had an entire Discord. We spent weeks and weeks going back and forth over issues, and after Jing would wrap up her lessons for the night, we would honestly just talk, go back and forth on, okay, do we want to use this feature? Do we want to not use this feature? What are the pros? What are the cons? And all four of us have very strong personalities. We really do. But I think that that really helped us in the end, because things that could have been more of a problem at the end of the semester, we kind of knocked out in the beginning by going back and forth over it, making sure we were absolutely certain of the direction we wanted to go. Now, with that said, everybody did have slightly different visions of how some things turned out. So occasionally there were like some miscommunications about, well, I thought we were going this direction. I thought we were going this direction. And it's like, oh, I can see how you would think that, and I can see how you would think that. And then we go back and forth about, well, what are the pros of this? What are the cons of this? How should we handle this? And what if we took this from your idea and this from your idea and melded into this one thing? And honestly, I can say that everyone was pretty reasonable about trying to compromise and be willing to see someone else's point of view and how it could better our app, or things that could hold it back if we held on to the wrong idea. I do want to say Alana set up that Discord right from the start, and that was a brilliant idea, because that really was everything hinged around having that one place to go back to say, okay, I'm working on this thing over here. Can you look at this thing over here? And then Michael was kind enough to set up a Jira board for us. We had several sprints set up, and we had a whole backlog of issues, and most of them we got assigned to people, but sometimes we just pop one up and it'd be like, okay, whoever has time, go ahead and grab it. And we could assign things to ourselves. We could add more things to the board, be like, oh, okay, I need to add these users into this, so I'm just going to put it on the board and then note down that I'm in the middle of it so everybody knows what's going on. Like I said, there were occasional conflicts, and some of them were a little more heated than others, but overall, I would say that most of the time people were willing to say, I realize I just got really heated about this. I'm sorry, I just had a long day. This isn't about you, which was very mature of the people involved. And I think it was a good lesson for a lot of us to be able to kind of dial it back and go, oh, okay, I'm going over the top about this. This isn't just my project. This is your project too. We have to work as a team on this. And if your vision is a little bit different than mine, then maybe we should just stop and discuss where we should go from here. Everyone brought an immense amount of talent to the table. They really did, from all different areas of expertise, and I could not be prouder of this team.